Thank you all for coming. As most of you all know who I am, my name is Elizabeth Forever. I am the president of the Portuguese American Club this year, as well as 3 years. I'm proud to say I was born and raised here in Mount Vernon and feel and part of the community, and small here in Mount Vernon as well. Events are happening as well as things here at the Portuguese Club. I want to thank Catherine and Ron for reaching out to me to allow to host this community conversation for the Portuguese community, as well as everyone else in Mount Vernon. We also have in Portuguese, translated Portuguese, so that the community understands what is happening, what's, the ask is here from us. Just a brief little history about the club. The Portuguese American Club was started and established in August 18th, 1935. We've held various locations here throughout the city of Mount Vernon, and back in September 13th, 1975, we purchased this building. We've been here since then. So we very much enjoy it and being part of here with being part of the community of Mount Vernon. Here we provide education, promote our Portuguese language and history and culture. I ask that all you please follow us on social media, that way we continue to have social events here for the community and for the Portuguese that all of Mount Vernon and outside of Michigan County to come and attend them. And I look forward to seeing everybody. So thank you very much.
Bom dia a todos. Eu vou estar naquela mesa ali atrás, daqueles que precisam de tradução em português, e simplesmente quero dar as boas-vindas também. Como vocês já sabem, a Elizabeth é a nossa presidente. Ela nasceu aqui em Mount Vernon e fez parte da comunidade, ou faz parte da comunidade. Quero agradecer também à Catherine e Molly, muito fazer contato com a gente e estar aqui hoje. Para a vossa informação, este clube foi estabelecido, não este clube aqui, o clube foi estabelecido em agosto de 1935 e deve ter em várias localidades. E este edifício aqui foi, a gente comprou o edifício em setembro de 75. Aqui no clube temos escola, como língua portuguesa, história e cultura. A gente quer que nos sigam na rede social para todos os eventos que vamos ter aqui no clube. Espero ver-os todos aqui no clube. Ok, muito obrigado.
Todo el comisario de implemento y descubrimiento de la ciudad. No hablo portugués. Más quiero dar bienvenidos y agradecer a todos los participantes. No es So thank you for coming out today. Again, I'm the Commissioner for Planning and Community Development. Our department is managing this comprehensive planning process. And this is one of the key conversations that we are having for the phase of the comprehensive plan. This will be a 18 to 24-month process that will be engaged in 2 phases. The first phase is focused on this area, downtown the train station. Then the second phase will focus on the individual neighborhoods. Before we begin, before I turn it over, I'd just like to make some acknowledgments of who's here today. From our department, we have Deputy Commissioner Marlon Molina. With that, that, their camera is our senior planner, Will Pan. Speaking and introducing today is our secretary, Grant Clara. We are our historian, Dr. School. We look forward to the Maryland Club for hosting us. You know, part of reaching out to the community is not only going into the neighborhoods, but going into the different cultural communities that are local to the city. So thank you for having us. And we hope that it will be a conversation, but that's what it is. It's a conversation among us all. Your ideas, your vision, your input is the reason why we're here. So even though we are in the process, all of you are managing the process. So I'd like to turn it over to so the information to go over the round rules.
Morning, everyone. Just wanted to give you a sense of what the meeting will be. You have agendas in front of you as well. So today we're really going to focus on hearing from you. We're going to provide a brief overview of the comprehensive plan. So you have some of the context and background on this process and what it looks like. And then we're going to ask you to share your vision. So when you think about the future of Mount Vernon, what does that mean to you? What do you see? And then we're going to spend some time also just hearing from you, what are the concerns and challenges that you see when it comes to, you know, a specific set of areas, but also what are the opportunities and priorities that you all think are important for us to build on when we are building out this plan. So that's the brief agenda. We are going to have a mix of, you know, asking you to write down your thoughts silently. So there's a lot of colored paper in front of you. And so we want to make sure that we capture everything that you have prepared. There's going to be opportunities for you to be in discussion with folks at your table, because we want to make sure that this is also an opportunity, you know, to hear what your neighbors and other folks in the community are thinking, and then also to share that back with the whole. So we want to make sure that, you know, this is interactive and that, again, we are giving you plenty of opportunity to share your thoughts and concerns. So before we get started, I also just want to share a set of community agreements. And this is just so that we have a baseline of how we want to engage and, you know, connect with each other during this meeting. So the first is just to be respectful, right? We are excited to be in the space. We are excited to hopefully have robust dialogue. Ask that we do that respectfully. The second one, step up, step back, is, or I skipped one. Let's see. Be present. So we know we all have cell phones, we have other work going on, maybe, you know, we have to rush out of here to other events. We just ask that you know, stay focused and be present as much as you can to have a productive meeting. Step up, step back is an invitation. So just notice your participation. If you're someone who loves to speak and engage, that's awesome. We want to hear from you. But if maybe you're someone who's a bit more reserved or quiet, maybe this is an invitation to share your ideas. If that's something that you're maybe not generally comfortable with, we want to make sure that we have a balance of who gets to share and speak throughout the meeting today. One mic is just an invitation to have one person speaking at one time so that we can make sure that we're hearing everyone clearly. Challenge ideas, not each other. Again, we want to have a diversity of different thoughts. We know we don't agree. We don't always agree with everyone, and that's totally fine. We want to be able to have a healthy struggle, and we just ask that if you want to push back, that you do so on the actual idea and not push back on the person. Speaking from your own experience, again, the diversity of who's in the room and who lives in the city is what's going to make a comprehensive plan actually effective and successful. And we, again, invite you to share your thoughts and ideas from that perspective. And then lastly, just when you do speak and share, keep your comments brief, because we want to just allow for as many folks to share as possible throughout the meeting itself. Any questions on the community agreements? Thank you for that. That's it. Both doing okay. For those who are clear on these community agreements, can I get a thumbs up or a raised hand that these are good to you throughout the meeting? This work? All right, thank you all.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marlon. So we want to give everyone in the room a chance to sort of understand who's sitting around the table. Some of you may know each other for many years, but we're going to do a little icebreaker. So raise your hand if you live in Mount Vernon. Okay, raise your hand if you work in Mount Vernon. All right, now raise your hand if you live here for more than 10 years. All right, raise your hand if you live here less than 10 years. Okay, so it looks like everybody's been around here for a while. Raise your hand if you ever, so we had a comp plan attempt about a decade ago. Raise your hand if you ever participated in a comprehensive plan process in the past. All right, have you ever participated in a neighborhood rezoning or neighborhood visioning session before? Okay, well, thank you very much. You know, you're about to share your life experience in terms of how you experience Mount Vernon. And having said all that, I'm going to bring back Mr. Brown. Enjoy.
My voice loud enough that everyone can hear? Okay, so I don't need to use the microphone because we had, don't say problems with the recording, but it's apparently it's clearer if my echo resonates off the walls. So thank you to Deputy Commissioner Molina and Associate Commissioner Mejia for introducing the ground rules and just getting to know each other a little bit. As Marlon had mentioned, about 10, 12 years ago, we had tried this process before to create a vision for the city. It didn't go quite as planned, and that was because of quite honest politics, and that happens sometimes. And one reason why we're facing this is because there is a great need. And so we want to focus on an area that has a lot of pressure. Downtown has a lot of pressure from developers, from people from outside the city, feel they know what's best for the city, but we need to speak to the people of the community who are actually here every day, living and or working, to hear what all of you want to see for the area. You may want to see the growth. You may want to keep things the way they are. We need to know because we need to lay out the next 10 years of how the city's going to grow. Last time we successfully did a plan was in 1968. It's been 55 years since we've done a plan. Now I know that it is a long time. It sounds really bad, but in comparison, New York City has never done a comprehensive plan. So there are a lot of towns who haven't done a plan in 100 years or 70 years. So even though it has been a long time, don't feel that Mount Vernon is behind the 8 ball or behind everyone else, because this is why we're here, not to focus on what happened in the past, but to talk about where we are now and how we can create our future. So since the last time that we tried, a lot has happened over the last 10 years. Where we were as a country in 2009 is very different now. The last 3 years has been some of the most difficult years for a lot of people, both personally and professionally. And so we need to take that into account in terms of how we grow. How we wanted to be in 2017 is very different than it is now. And so we need to hear from all of you and take that into consideration in terms of creating this vision. And so, as I mentioned, this is a series of community conversations that we're having. We're doing 8 of them before we do a larger public workshop, one in April and another in June. And then for the second phase, we're going to be doing it at the end of the year in 2024. I mentioned earlier, it's an 18 to 24 month process. We're trying to do it in a year and a half, but things take time. Sometimes people want to have more conversations, and so we want to open up that opportunities to have those discussions as necessary. So, what we've done is we brought on a team of consultants to help us. What the city did in fall was issue a request for proposals from experts who do this kind of work. And we received four submissions and interviewed those four candidates. The mayor and the team here interviewed them, and we narrowed it down to two and presented it to city council. We went with this group, Metropolitan Urban Design Workshop, who also call themselves MUD Workshop. They're a small, woman-owned, minority-owned business based in Brooklyn, who does a lot of grassroots, local community plans. And so they have a lot of experience going deep into communities and working with them to help them create various types of business. So they have a team with them, environmental and zoning group called AKRF, who is one of the premier consulting firms for that in the region, and Hudson Valley Academy for Progress, who is a community organization that represents the entire Hudson Valley, who is going to be focused on a lot of the housing and economic development part of this process. But they also have a lot of great partnerships and networking, both with government and funders, because part of this process is that we want to be able to implement our vision. That's what's really important, is that what this comprehensive planning process is, even though it's taking 18 to 24 months, is actually beginning. So the ideas that we have here, the vision that we bring, will create the foundation for the actual work that needs to be done for the next 10 years. So it's good to have the right people, the right partners to help us find a way to actually execute. The part of that is what you need to help us develop that network and tell us what you need. And part of it is just working in government and foundations to make that happen. So that, that may take some time, but we're very confident that by 2024, we're going to have a plan in hand, the vision for the next 10 years. And what do we mean when we say vision? So everyone comes to the table with their own vision, their own individual idea of how Mount Vernon should be. That's good. That's good. But the reason we come together is to share our ideas, and a lot of people prefer a lot of times saying, "Oh, but you'll need to compromise." And I don't like to look at it that way. We're collaborating. Compromise means like we're giving up something. That's not why we're here. We're not here to give up something. We're here to take the best of our own ideas, see if we all agree, or if they're two different ideas and they're compatible, we bring them together and create a new vision. So just keep that in mind while we're here. Just like, we're not here, we're here to grow something, we're here to develop something. Now, some folks have had questions about our consultants. They are not here today, and there's a reason. So the city is spending $250,000 for this process, and that's through approval by the city council, from the city dollars, $75,000 grant from the state, from the Empire State Development Corporation that helps support this process. So these conversations right now, our department actually created them over the last month. So within the contract, these were not originally part of the scope and the vision. And so we're just bringing this extra. And so everyone's going to be able to meet the consultants one-on-one. And what we're doing here is we're gathering data, we're gathering information, we're gathering ideas so the consultant can put it all together and create an outlook plan, a vision, kind of a foundation, presentation for everyone come this spring. And so I understand everyone is eager to meet them, and also eager to know why we're spending $250,000. But we are speaking with them at minimum every 2 weeks, and a lot of quick phone calls in between to to keep that dialogue going. So, again, thank you. At the end of this process, we're gonna have a nice large document to work with. And we're just really excited for all your ideas. And any point during our discussion or presentation, you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. But we're really excited about this, and so we're going to turn it back over to Associate Commissioner Mania to go through our discussion.
So you all have this timeline up here in front of you. And again, it's just to give you a sense of what are the different kind of streams of activity that will be happening over the next few years. As you can see, the community outreach and engagement is the one that's happening consistently, and this is just the beginning of that. The public workshops that will start in the spring will be another opportunity, again, to kind of be all together in the room at different points in time throughout the next 18 months to 24 months. To really hear what's been shared, what the research has been, make decisions together and continue to build on that. And then as you can see, there's additional work that we'll be doing. So we want to review our zoning code. It's old, some things don't necessarily make sense. Some things aren't, there's a lot obviously that has changed when we talk about sustainability. That's not reflected, and we want to make sure that we're kind of taking a look at that and make decisions around how we can improve it and how it can help us then make this plan a reality. As we shared, our focus on downtown, we want to be able to think about, what do we want downtown to look like? Literally in the public realm, when we talk about parking, right? So there's just going to be different points again throughout the next 2 years that different pieces of this work will be moving forward. So the timeline is giving you a sense of the planning work that the consultant and the planning department and you all will be helping us co-create. So before we move to our visioning activity and begin to hear from you all, just want to make some space to see if there's any questions or if there's anything you want to kind of share in Portuguese as well before we kind of move to the next set of activities. Okay, well, if there are no questions, we're going to jump right in. And of course, we're here, right? So we can come back if things are raised as we go through the activity. I'm going to turn it back over to Deputy Commissioner Molina to lead us through the visioning exercise, and then we'll get started into the bulk of the work together shortly.
All right, so it's going to be sort of like the first exercise that we do together. There's a purple sheet of paper in front of you. So we're going to be using that. So we realize that, some of you are thinking about what you want to see, think of it in terms of problem or solution. But we're going to pause that for a second, and we actually want to get into a space where we are envisioning what Mount Vernon could be. So, if you've traveled outside the United States, if you've traveled to other cities, and you've seen something, you experienced something, you're like, I wish we had something like this in Mount Vernon. That's what this exercise is about. And we're going to put it in writing because at the end of the workshop, we're actually going to take all of your notes that you write down today. We're going to share them with the consultant. So some of you will speak to what you're saying, to what you write. Some of you will just hand it in. But right now, we just want to don't think about how much it would cost. Don't think about whether we have the resources or not. Just think about something that you would like to see in Mount Vernon. And as this is the first phase, we're concentrating in the area which is the downtown area. So in 10, 20, 30 years, how do you see Mount Vernon? And we're going to take 2 minutes to write it down, and then we're going to take the last 5 minutes. Some of you can volunteer to say, hey, this is the vision that I have of how I'm going to experience positive experience. So we're looking for positive vision on what you want to see with Mount Vernon. Please take 2 minutes to write it down quietly.
And please write it in whatever language you feel most comfortable.
Yeah. All right. So was that fun? So we're gonna take 5 minutes. Oh, by the way, if you want to share if you want to share back in Portuguese, right, we welcome that. Who would like to go first?
All right, that's my wish. Seeing activities, I want to see something done for the senior citizens that represent all the cultures, someplace where they feel safe, where they can get involved with the community. Because right now, our senior citizens don't have really a place to go. Restaurants with outdoor seatings, an environment where people can just stroll down the streets and not be afraid to walk the streets at whatever time of the day or night it may be. Parks with activities for the children and young teens, with organized activities to keep them off the streets and from keeping them from getting in trouble. And of course, jobs for the young teens, because they need something to do. And police presence. We definitely need a police presence. And when I talk about police presence, I don't talk about nothing against the rookies. We need our veteran police officers to stay here and make a difference in numbers.
Thank you. All right, thanks.
I kind of married into the city. But I've been through it my whole life, coming in and out. I would like to see the quality of care, beautification that has been sustained at the Lincoln Avenue, Barrington Avenue roundabout.
permeated throughout the entire city. The way that's maintained is beautifully done. And at first I was a little skeptical that they were doing it years ago, but I'm like, wow, they really maintained it. They've done a beautiful job. It would be great to see the entire downtown maintained in the same light. I would like the socially challenged that are within the city, you know, the homeless, the people who have substance abuse issues, not to be helped primarily, whatever services that are needed, but I don't think they should be the highlight of the downtown area. Not to say that, you know, you want them swept away or placed out of sight completely, because they do need to be helped, but they shouldn't be just so visible, and they shouldn't be problematic for the rest of the community, shopkeepers, pedestrians, shoppers, whatever. And then I would like the safety of the citizens to be enhanced by a better trained and better trained police, fire, and emergency services, so that the citizens feel safer and maybe have more of a presence throughout the day in the certain parts of the downtown area.
Well.
And it's good notes for them, this group, this is the group that I'm translating for. And I just jotted down some of their thoughts. They would like to see a secure city. They would like to see a clean city. More parks for its citizens. Lower taxes, I don't know how that would fit in. And see safe schools. So those were the comments that we got into.
Our plans here are not much simple. I've lived here about 22 years.
Can you speak a little louder?
No problem.
Thank you.
My opinion on this, as well as going back to when we started talking about unpacking something tonight, is that the city now, like then, needs to sort of call look at the walk on each way. Therefore, the main part of any comprehensive plan would be to bring up our services and our utilities to a functional capacity prior to going vertical in any way or getting any more residential development, or even attempted to make us some sort of commercial hub, because our services are nearly non-existent, but the utilities, the DPW, the police, fire, as someone else brought up, really, it's kind of hard to have a thriving city when all you have is a bunch of 20-year-old cops trying to keep order in a place that has been historically completely out of order. And that's why we're in this situation we're in. And in my case, paying close to $20,000 active for a one-family house. With a bunch of hot and sewer that don't work. And of course, from the hutch, so and sewer that don't even leave the hutch. So I understand the glorious idea of creating this fantastic city. We are situated perfectly above New York City. We are a transportation hub already. We have 3 train stations and 2 subways within walking distance for our city. However, the city's gone to hell, and that's why the city's in the situation it's in, and we talk about comprehensive plans. But we're really thinking about all.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I know if you're using a computer, did you write on the purple note as well?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So you can leave those there and pick them up at the end of the workshop. So I'm bringing Captain Mayor back up.
Great, so you kind of helped us segue to the next activity. So, right, we know that before we get to some of the visions that you all shared around what you want the future of the city to be like, we need to talk about the present, and that includes, right, identifying challenges and concerns. But we also know the city has assets. We know there are opportunities that maybe you're involved in or are, spending time investing in. And so we want to spend some time now being able to gather those thoughts from you. And so you will see additional colored paper in front of you. And we want to encourage you to focus on 4 areas, but you're welcome to add others if there are other things that are priorities for you. But again, when we talk about downtown, we're right now thinking about open space and parks, mobility and transportation, housing, businesses, And then again, if there's another topic that feels near and dear to your heart. And so again, we're really just gonna ask you, are there challenges or concerns when it comes to these issues that you really wanna raise? And are there opportunities or assets or priorities that you feel are helpful for us to really consider when it comes to these topics? And so we're gonna give you all a few minutes, again, silently gather your thoughts using the different papers. You can focus on one topic if you feel really strongly about one, you can add ideas for all. It's really up to you how you want to kind of organize the next few minutes. And then we're going to ask you to kind of engage in some conversation at your table, just to kind of get a discussion in terms of what's coming up for other folks there. And then at the end, we'll ask you all to have someone report back. So for the next few minutes, again, share your thoughts on paper, and then we'll prompt you when we want to encourage you to start the discussion at your table. Any questions on that activity? Right. So again, there's 4 topics. Pick one, pick 2, pick all of them. Yeah, so if you have thoughts on all, please add to them. If you want to focus on one, you're welcome to do that. Write down challenges, but also opportunities that you think can help us think through building up this plan. And then we'll prompt you when we want you to kind of engage in a discussion with folks at your team.
No, I know we talked about this in my sheet. Right.
All right, it seems like everyone has begun their discussion. So I would just ask, identify a note taker at your table, someone who can write down what others are discussing. And then if that person or someone else is comfortable, we're gonna ask one person each to share back what was discussed. Identify a note taker. How what I'm share that. All right, so now we're going to ask everyone to share back. We're gonna go table by table, and again, have someone at your table share back, no more than 2 minutes, but a brief summary of what the discussion was. In particular, any ideas that you kind of shared that felt important in terms of challenges or opportunities. And then we'll just talk about next steps. This time we'll start with here, table by table. Everyone on the kind of that one. All right, I'll give you a second. Maybe we'll start here in the middle. Get ready to go. They want to be the time.
All right, so we talked about various things. One thing that we talked about is what is the plan for city-owned properties? The city of Mount Vernon needs a lot of housing, What are we gonna do with those first, And how is that going to be determined? How will additional housing affect schools? Why am I saying that? Educated for 32 years. When that building was built on Remington Avenue, to our knowledge, the school was never involved in the decision making. So they got a tax break. Wonderful. The city decided to give the building a tax break. Well, guess what? 98% of these people in this room right here are taxpayers. They own homes. They're paying an astronomical amount of taxes, and you gave the building a tax break. But not only that, the school district was not involved. They have to educate these children that live in that building. No thought was given to that. So now additional teachers, additional monies to, to educate these children. the tax base. We really need to think about that, because it is affecting the senior citizens in this room. They can't afford their houses. Next, I think I just said it all. Senior citizens need transportation for shopping. We just discussed, born and raised in Mount Vernon, we for years had a supermarket on the north side. For years, no longer. All right, if a senior citizen lives on the north side and doesn't have a car, how do they go shopping? That is a problem for our senior citizens. We need to offer transportation for our senior citizens, or better yet, please put a supermarket on the north side. So that would answer all of that. And more importantly, please, no tax break, not at the expense of the taxpayers. Did I leave anything out? No.
I mean, we were talking about similar things as I was speaking about there, we were going forward. A lot of people here with property interest taxpayers, and some, most probably, second, third generation not learning that, so continue to do that and continue to leave and continue to stay here when over the last 25 years, many people have left due to the non-functioning in the city. We're talking about it as you guys brought up. See, the seniors that are still here do require a certain level of services that we lack compared to, I mean, Nourishville's coming up and coming in there, creating new services. They have various services for seniors, anything for the residents, just to encourage the people within their city to stay within their city, to do their shopping, which in our case would actually be some sales tax, which is an issue here. But that's on the transportation side. That's what we have. We're a hub. We just don't. It's a shame we're a hub for transportation. We have so many. We have 2 interstates within a mile of our border, so we really should be concentrating. The city should concentrate more on recapturing its industrial and its business side, because our city is rife with raw material to create workers. Our school district is what it is at this point. It used to be a thriving district, and it used to actually, our high school was one of the top 3 vocational training programs in the state. Now, I don't even know what's left of it. I've been there. I'm on school board. I know what's left of it, but it's hardly existent. Again, when it comes to business and housing and transportation, to me, and I have a good mouth, so I kind of occupy the conversation here. The most important thing for the city to do, as they're bringing up about tax rates for the residential development, it was the tax rate formula, pilot program for the residential development, and we're squandering our resources on buildings that are bringing in how many hundreds of families, when our services can't even provide enough for people who haven't been impacted. We need a pilot program. We have a lot of former industrial and business properties in our town, and for me, a pilot program should be geared more towards bringing back the industry or bringing back the businesses that with part of the deal in order to provide them with a pilot program just to encourage businesses to come to our town would be the appropriate flowback clauses, so that if they don't provide jobs or don't provide training to the residents in our town who need it and who could help our town to turn around and prosper, then you pull back your cloud. When our problem with the city is we're giving pilots to residential programs, to residential developers. The residential developers come in here, add 500 families to our services, and it's the same sewers and the same DPW and the same police department that can hardly provide services to the rest of us. So we're paying for them while someone comes in and builds a building that we don't need.
I think what we discussed, actually, they mentioned, that was mentioned, maybe one different thing is that we would like to have more cameras at the parks, I guess, for safety, like on the roads. But everything else, everybody covered that.
Table, would you like to share? Yeah, you can share in English or Portuguese. Okay. I'm gonna go table by table, have one. Report back.
It already has been expressed, that one of the things, that this group here would like to see would be, an increase in our tax base, and that's really involved more business, more industry. And as a result of that, that's what some of the community do. And I think we're in a good position to do that. In that we're next to the grounds, also, they mentioned about increasing the transportation capacity, especially in citizens. And the rest of the measure, whatever, was the same.
Okay, thank you. This table, yeah.
Hi, me and Liz actually been to a few of these, so this is our third one. And, I can be a witness that pretty much at every single one, it's always the same hopes that the people have. Doesn't matter if it's housing, it doesn't mean if it's better retail, senior citizens, needs. So, and we discussed it again today at this table, and pretty much we covered everyone's, wishing list. But like I said, having been to a few of these, I think that Mount Vernon is a diamond in the rough. The appetite should be enormous, because if you look at New Rochelle, I mean, towers and towers are popping up like mushrooms. So we know that if, for example, across the street has been approved for apartments of 32 stories high, and they're not satisfied yet. It's either regional to make it even larger. So us being here and with this empty lot next to us, it looks like, you know, we might be one of the targets in the near future. And no matter what, the pressure is high, and at the end of the road, it's all about money. Everybody needs a bigger budget, everyone needs, you know, more money to make things happen, so we can have a wishing list, but if the money doesn't show up, we'll never achieve any of these goals. So I took a little time to count the empty stores from the roundabout to the train track, and there's about 14 empty stores. What once was the, you know, the prime retail venue of Mount Vernon. So we can wish for boutique stores that I heard at other events, promenades, better restaurants. Actually, I have Paul here, who's one of the owners of Rosiella's, which is one of the best restaurants sitting across from the city hall, has a nice terrace. The problem is, there's no parking. I mean, it's either taken by the city, by the police department, which is great, it deserves all that, you know, they entitled to. But we go to that parking lot across the street, and the potholes, if you don't know the parking lot already, you might end up with a broken suspension. So it's great that we wish for better restaurants, not only for whatever culture they are, background, but we have no parking. It's a deterrent. So, having said this, and about the retail, I have this floor. Mount Vernon doesn't have a UPS store. We don't have a FedEx store. We don't have a diner. We don't have a movie theater. We don't have any type of immigration rent that we could benefit from. And it's awkward because most of the population has an immigrant background. And whenever we need something, we have to go to another city. As simple as taking fingerprints or photos. So if these new developers come in, I think there should be a big compromise. Where, for example, part of the building could be a hotel, because we're in the transportation hub. Because we're 20 minutes away from Grand Central, why shouldn't we have here a hotel or a hotel part of that building that's gonna be built in order to attract those new people? Why shouldn't we just, close for something to buy an apartment because we're close to the city and not having a hotel closer to the city too? It would be, for that, I think the city will have to provide incentives, and without incentives, we're not gonna have any of these things. So even if it takes, a toll to attract some brand names, like a Starbucks or whatever, what kind of incentives you can get the city, that may will attract these potentially new comers. I mean, I see Dunkin' Donuts on the corner, and it has a lease sign on it, so maybe soon we'll even have a Dunkin' Donuts in Mount Vernon. So I think it's a great opportunity if these developers come with limitations. But if we don't put something in place where we can benefit from incentives for retail, whatever it is, coming from their pockets, I don't think the city will ever come up with enough revenue to then to produce and flourish all that it's needed for these new towers. New Rochelle, for example, they have this problem, they're building those towers, and I know most of them are not being sold or rented because they forgot to do the infrastructure around those towers. People not gonna buy top dollar apartments and come down and have the same rundown stores. So that's the problem they have. They build something that is nice, brand new, but people are not gonna jump in the train to go to the city, come back and go to the town, they have nowhere to shop, nowhere to eat. So that's, it's a glamorous thing, they bring money, but if you don't do our homework, maybe we'll be left with them with those towns. 3 months.
Mentioning that, right, part of what we want to do, right, is get to a shared vision, is get to a shared set of priorities. And so being in these spaces and hearing a lot of the same concerns and some new ideas is what's going to make that process smoother. So thank you for pointing that out. I think the commissioner wanted to respond. Oh, yeah, sorry. No, sorry. Then I'll turn it to-
I love this idea of a vision mountain. Everybody in this room came here because they had a dream. The American dream, whether you were Italian, Portuguese, or African American, you came from the South, you were migrants, came in the 40s. It happened in one generation, you were homeless. So envisioning Mount Vernon, we need to take a look at the bigger picture. Mount Vernon is an American dream city. No matter what we think about it, all of the mess, the crime, the people hanging out in front of the bus station, sleep, Mount Vernon has always been a city about those who want to dream. Come, you can make it here and you can get started. And I know that's true for many of our Portuguese friends. Because I've known many of your sons and daughters, and many of you, for many years. I know you, I know the accomplishments here. But envisioning what do you see the city being in the future? In 2020, Mount Vernon will be celebrating 175th anniversary. That dream, this envision, should be looking to that year. What will we be able to say about Mount Vernon, vision in Mount Vernon? I know we're dealing with problems, taxes and sewers and all, it's very, important. But we also need that bigger picture about why people want to think something because they have dream, they want to take on. Because Ronnie Black, people come to Mount Vernon because they dream. So my view is that this historic Mount Vernon is about dreams. They come because they want to experience the American dream. Life, liberty, safety, but also the ability to prosper. And most of us have achieved most of those things. And I believe that we need to think in terms of how does this comprehensive plan
cover that big picture of how Mount Vernon even exists. It exists because what made New York City great is what made diversity. People come here because they dream. They don't go to that, they came here. Because they wanted to have what, house, no land, no plot. They also wanted to get their children educated. For my mother was in the South, you know, on a farm, cotton. And she said she got on a train with my dad, and they came here because she couldn't get the American dream where she was. So she was going to fight, and she landed in Mount Vernon. So I just want to leave that with you guys. That though we are now thoroughly middle focused, I can see. And I've gone to school and worked in the we're third, but we can't forget that historic Mount Vernon, that it has been good to a lot of people. A lot of different people. So I'm going to stop you. That's my history moment right now. He said, Mount Vernon's been good to a lot of people still. In spite of our anger, I'm just and people know me, I talk. Just like my friend over here, he's over us. Man, there are issues. We are not Michelle, but we can look at Michelle and see how we can do it. So thank you.
Well, just, can I just, address, so thank you, everyone, thank you, Dr. for coming in. I just want to talk about some of the concerns and ideas that were raised here, because it is important. One thing I did neglect to say, and thanks for finishing on, like we could look to New Rochelle, because in these conversations, some people have, they've looked east and see what's happening in New Rochelle. They've looked west at the Yonkers waterfront, and we've heard, wow, why can't Mount Vernon have that? Conversely, we've heard that is the last thing you come see in Mount Vernon. I've heard everything of like, why can't we have fancy luxury towers, to like, we don't even want to see 6-story buildings. But that's part of this process, and the reason we're doing it in phases is because we want to focus, like, where can growth happen? Because growth means different things. Growth means, Dr. Sproul is a historian. Growth means preservation. There's value in preserving what you have. And so it's not necessarily opening the doors. And yes, historically, there have been a lot of pilots. This current administration actually hasn't issued any pilots because of the history. And a lot of those deals would be a random 13-story building built. And how is that deal done? Well, the developer just said, well, I'll put a couple $100,000 into this program if you allow me to build this 13-story building next to this one-family house. And that's not what we're looking to do. Just with the staff here and the team here, it's just like, it's part of our intrinsic value to do it correctly. We're not against growth. And you were mentioning the 32-story building. It was actually the first meeting that I had. It was a higher volume meeting than I expected because it was that kind of dialogue where it's just like, we're coming in, we're doing this for the city, and it's like, no, it's what was being indicated, asking for a handout for that. And that doesn't mean that there won't be a building there. It doesn't mean that there won't be a floor building there, but it won't be driven by someone from the outside of the city. It will be driven by everyone here and your other neighbors in the community saying, we're okay with this, but we want to see something more like this. In the building, because it's in the building. Is it rental? Is it home ownership? Is it perceived? And that's what we need to find out. That's why we need to come here and listen, because if we are going to invest, and infrastructure is really important. We have $153 million in our sewers. To start, we still need more because people are looking to Mount Vernon for opportunity, but again, the city council put the moratorium on new development. If you want any type, that doesn't mean people can't build or like add a garage to their land. But this, where there's like, a 3-family house is allowed, and you're saying we want to build an 8-story apartment building. That's not happening until this process is done. And that's why we're here, and we're waiting, and we need to hear back. We need to lay everything out, for literally every single block of this community. There are 11,000 lots in the city of Mount Vernon. And we need to get a good sense of what's happening. The only way we can do that is just continue talking for, the remaining 14 to 18 months of this process. So first, I want to say thank you for all of that, because it is important for us to hear.
Thank you everyone for your time. We just want to briefly share next steps. So again, please leave all of the notes that you wrote today. We are going to be collecting everything and synthesizing that, sharing that with the consultant. And as was shared, right, back in April, or when we meet in April, we'll be able to hear back what the different themes have been coming up across this community conversation. We'll be able to see, right, where there's critical mass around particular challenges, but also ideas and opportunities to build from, and also think about what are the gaps that maybe we haven't considered that we can continue to discuss moving forward. So folks who have family or friends who speak English and haven't participated yet, we're going to have the next community conversation on March 9th in the evening, and that's going to be at the Wartburg at their Gas Conference Center. Please save the date for the first public workshop. That's going to be on April 20th in the evening, and that'll be again an opportunity for folks across the city to come together, and that will obviously be inclusive of the various languages that are spoken here in the city. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to the planning department. We have our number there. You can call us at 914-840-4029. And we also now have a website, envisionmtvernon.com. That's a place where we're going to continue to share information of upcoming meetings, notes, recordings of these meetings, drafts, eventually. So it'll be a place that will continue to get built out over time. And so we encourage you to go there or reach out to us if you have any questions. And again, just thank you so much for coming out today. Thank you for your time, thank you for your ideas and questions. This is an ongoing process, an iterative process. We look forward to continue to see you all in future meetings and conversations. So thank you.
Thank you.